Welcome to Podcrushed. You know what we're not going to do today?
What are we not going to do?
Going to do, which everyone else is doing, and which I refuse.
Make money.
Is to that too is A, make money. B, talk about effing New Year's resolutions. Everybody.
We want to stay the same.
We don't want change. No change. No change. No change. Things are great. Things are great.
We are perfect.
Oh, it's so good.
Okay, wait. Instead of a resolution, can in 5 seconds, Penn, I already know you can't do it. Can you share your favorite thing that happened in 2024?
2024.
I wrapped you.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Although it's not come out yet, so whatever.
Wait, Penn, is this going to be the banter where you tell everyone a release date? Everyone's asking.
No,
Everything
I can't do that. I
post.
can't do that.
Yeah.
Netflix.
Screw Netflix. What are they going to do? The show's done.
Favorite moment of 2024. Oh, I went to Morocco with my sister and her whole family, my parents, and seeing our babies together. Our babies are 3 months apart. That was just the best. I think about it. I've been thinking about it since it happened.
Oh my God, I actually can't think of anything. What a failure. I'm such a failure. Let's just end on that note.
Yeah, no, that's pretty good. Starting off the new year right.
Louis.
It was a weird year. I'm looking forward to 2025. Yeah.
Going to New York with Podcrushed.
Yeah.
That couldn't be it.
Going to New York to direct.
I mean, maybe this is sad that this is my favorite moment. It was probably meeting Ariana Grande. It was probably doing that episode. It was probably my favorite moment
last
of
year.
2024.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Huge for you. Today's guest is the phenomenal, the talented Felicity Jones, the actor you might know and already love from massive films like The Theory of Everything, with friend of the pod, Eddie Redmayne, friend of the pod. Love to say friend of the pod.
My friend too.
Friend of
Sophie.
These are acquaintances really at best.
In my dreams.
There's the Star Wars franchise. Friend of the pod, Daisy Ridley, although I'm not sure if they were in the same one, were they?
Friend of only Penn. Sophie and I.
That's right. Oh, I was the only one.
No idea who we are.
And now we've got the new A24 film of hers, The Brutalist, about a Hungarian architect who immigrates to America post-Holocaust while his wife is trapped in Eastern Europe. This film, although we could not see it, looks truly incredible. For Felicity, like many other actors in this show, her career began when she was smack dab 12, just about. That focus we have, if you've listened before, of our show, middle school, or I think there it's called secondary school, or is 11 to 12 secondary school in the UK? Who can confirm? Who can confirm? Our British guests know.
None of us.
It's a mystery. We'll have this and other scintillating questions when we're back. Welcome to Podcrushed. We're your hosts. I'm Penn.
I'm Sophie.
And I'm Nava, and I think we would have been your middle school besties.
Dreaming about skater boys.
See you later, boys. So we typically start at 12. When you were 11, if the internet is correct, which it isn't always, but I guess around the age of 11, did you start some kind of formal training, a drama club?
Yeah, I initially, the first ever kind of club that I did was this thing called Academy One, which was the leaflet. They handed them out in my primary school in Bourneville, where I grew up, and my best friend and I kind of grabbed these leaflets and went home to our mothers and said, please, will you sign us up for this? It was on Saturday mornings, and it was a place called the Custard Factory, which was like an arts center. And we did an hour, I think it was 3 hours. So it was quite a commitment. It was an hour of drama, an hour of dance, and an hour of music. And then I dropped the singing because I'm not a particularly good singer. But that was the first, and that was, that would have been, I think that was a little bit earlier. It's sort of 9, 10-ish.
Okay.
So that was the first kind of foray into it. And then through that, I started a group called Central Junior Television Workshop, which was, my dad was a TV producer, and it was when these companies had, they're a bit more altruistic, and they ran a drama group for all the kids in the city where you could do plays, and then through that we would have auditions for TV and radio and film, but primarily TV and radio.
So by the time you were 12, which we call middle school here, I suppose you must know that by now, having spent so
Yeah,
much time in America.
yeah. I got that one. Yeah.
Yeah. Uh, I mean, so you were auditioning a lot because you were in the BBC, or well, maybe not in BBC, but it was you were in this television film, The Treasure
Yes.
Seekers, I believe, when you were 12.
The Treasure Seekers was the first, I guess the first job that I got from this drama group. And that was that was the start of it, really, I guess. And we were playing this family. Our father was an inventor, and they were really struggling, and his inventions weren't taking off. So the children all got together to work out ways of getting money so that they could survive. And that was shot just outside of London. And I think it was in my summer holidays, and it was about 2 months shoot. And when I think I was 11, 12.
So I'm curious, like how you were seeing the world then, because there's that like that history, that track record you now have on the surface. Like, okay, you started working at 12. I also started working at 12. I know what that's like. I'm curious what the little budding artist of Felicity, like how she was seeing the world. You know, like was it really exciting to be a part of that job? Did you have frustrations with it? You know, what was it like being on set? You know, I'm just curious about all that, all the kind of like for your interior, your emotional reality and mental reality.
Yeah, it's strange because when you're a child, you just kind of take it for granted, and then it's only as you get older and you look back and you go, well, actually, not everyone was doing that. That's it's
Mm-hmm.
quite unusual in many ways. I think at the time, I remember they had this like giant swing attached to a tree that was in the location that we were shooting at, because the drama was set in the Victorian age, and it was in this old country house, and then there were quite amazing kind of grounds, and there was this big swing that we used to just run to when they called cut. Because it was a family of children. And I remember being more excited about that, probably the playtime, than the actual shooting. But I think it was one of the aspects I quite liked about it was I guess earning a little bit of pocket money and almost feeling at quite a young age quite a lot of independence. And I remember using the money that I'd made on that TV show to buy albums. I think I bought Alanis Morissette's Jagged Little Pill. It was amazing, and Pulp. It was that I was quite excited about, that I had my own little business, so to speak. And I guess that's quite a young age to feel that sense of financial independence, really.
Yeah. You mentioned buying some albums. I read that your family didn't have a VHS player at home. Is that true?
Yeah, growing up, we would always watch videos. We'd always watch them at my cousin's house, and my cousins had all the fun, naughty things.
I thought that was really endearing, and I actually had a similar situation at home, like one of the few families that didn't have TV but I'm curious, what was the first thing that you watched, film or television, that kind of maybe moved you or that you really loved?
Well, that my mother used to, she was, she's very much the cinephile. My father is, the real obsessed with music, and my mother was obsessed with film. So, it's sort of ironic that we didn't have a VHS player, but I think she was quite committed to the theatrical experience. So she would drive me and my brother. There was a big multiplex called UGC, and it was that time, it was the 90s, the height of the blockbuster. So she'd take us to, it was quite a long drive. I think it was about an hour to get there, and we'd be in her tiny car driving out, and we'd go and see all these, like Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, I think it was the Addams Family, all those big popcorn films, and it was just, it was a real highlight for us going to going to see those films. So very much my first experience of cinema was in a theater, you know, that kind of overwhelming experience.
Felicity, you started so young. I don't know if you'll have an answer to this, but I'm curious, outside of the performing arts, what your sense of identity was, or like what you were gravitating towards, or was it just always in that view of like developing yourself as a performer?
No, I mean, such an indie kid, I guess, just really into pop culture and music. I remember my best friend and we were at primary school together, and we were obsessed with Mariah Carey's album Fantasy, which
Such a
we
classic.
would listen to religiously, and then make up these dances in my sitting room at home, and just completely obsessed with getting the choreography right for these made up dances. So it was, I guess, all the way through. I guess I was quite academic as well, so it was, you know, it was trying to get a balance between that and working.
My experience was that there was not a balance, and the joke is that I like dropped out of middle school and I didn't go to high school. I'm curious, what was the balance? Like, did you? It seems like you kept going to school because you also went to university as well, right?
Yeah, I think that came from my parents in a way. I think I remember there was a moment I was quite keen to go to drama school, you know, at sort of 17, 18, and I definitely felt they were kind of anxious for me to continue and go to university. But it's funny. It's definitely, I think I went to Oxford, and in going to that university, I was able to still do drama and keep that side of things going. Although when I got there, I would audition and I just didn't seem to get anything. So I suddenly was, you know, having acted professionally, I suddenly sort of felt like I was starting again in some ways. They were pretty tough, you know. The student directors, they were pretty tough.
Did you ever have any sense that you might do something else, or was it always going to be acting?
Well, I went through a moment of thinking I was going to study law, and I did like a week's course at a university, and then I actually had a teacher who I was quite close to, and discussing it with her, it felt like English was probably a better route to take, which, you know, who knows, you make these decisions and life takes you in certain directions, and you know, who knows, it may have been very different if I'd studied law.
Did you value, again, like the sense of identity? Did you think of yourself as an artist? You know, I'm curious, like that, just the essence of it, you know, like, because in those teen years is when I think we can be our most idealistic, you know, and you have these kind of aspirations and dreams about what you'll end up doing that are connected to that idealism.
Yeah, interestingly, do you know, I think because I started doing it so young, as you probably found, it was just part of my life, and it was just, that's what you do, and you know, that's totally normal. And it's only now that I've started to this idea of being an artist that I have started to think, oh no, we are, as actors, we are artists. And going, well, actually, you know, looking around at my friends' jobs from university, which are very different, and going, this is a crazy job. Like, this is an insane job. So there's definitely, you have to be an artist to do this. But it's interesting you say use that term, because it's only recently that which seems very late on considering I'm 41.
I have to say, I'm surprised to hear you say it, because you've been nominated for multiple Oscars, I think. So I'm curious, like, as you were, I mean, we're going to kind of jump around because I think we have some more questions that are more about, you know, the earlier stages of life. We'll get into the career and stuff. But I guess, like, so what I'm interested in is then that arc from, like, you know, this age where you do, as you say, you just kind of, it's what you do, even though it's not what people do at all. You're just like, well, it's what you do. It's what you do. But then this arc through those teen years where you're sort of like, yeah, it's what you do. But then you realize, well, is it what I'm going to do? But then you know, by your early 20s, mid 20s, you were pursuing it really. I mean, I guess by like, say the time, let's say like Crazy, for instance, seems like your serious entrance into American film. It's about, right? It's
Definitely.
like 2011,
Yeah.
Sundance, all that stuff. I mean, so yeah, I'm wondering about that arc from I guess those years, you know. But it's interesting because thinking about it as an outsider, I would have thought that at some point you were like, I'm an artist, you know, to do that thing.
Well, I think I was quite practical about it. When I finished university, I remember thinking, you know, I'm going to give this a go, and I will, if you know, I needed to make a living, and if I can make a living from it, I'll give it 2 years. I don't know why I said 2 years, but you know, 2 years, and then if it works, I'll keep going. So, and then I was lucky enough I did a Jane Austen adaptation, and then I kind of took it sort of job by job from that point. But I was you know, I needed to pay the bills, so it definitely had to work.
Can you tell us about your first love and your first heartbreak?
My first love, when I was probably was around this age, hence why you've chosen it. About 12-ish, I was obsessed with skating, like
Skateboarding or
skateboarding, inline skating. My brother was into skateboarding and inline skating, so we would get all the magazines, we would go to the shops. I think I was probably into it because my brother was into it. But there was, and you know, the fashion that came with it, the t-shirts, I just loved
pants,
the like baggy trousers. I remember I had these Adidas corduroy camel sneakers, those you guys trainers that I was at. They were like camel and navy blue. I was absolutely obsessed with them. And then I had I can't even remember how you pronounce it.
I think it's Stussy.
Stussy. I had this Stussy t-shirt, and then I had this like little. I had my like whole look, my hair in these like weird sort of pigtails. And there was this skater boy who he went to I went to a girls' school and he went to the boys' school, and I would see him on my walk home from school, and it wasn't that far from school to my house. It was about a 20-minute walk. And I'd walk back with a friend, and she lived just around the corner. And I would just pray that I would see this guy. And I would be, if I'd missed the timing or something, I was doing club after school, then I wouldn't see him. But he was just the classic skater boy. He had spiky hair, black spiky hair with glitter gel, which I just was amazing. And he'd be carrying his skateboard, but he was at school, so he obviously like ran back home after school. He was in school uniform, as we all were, and he'd obviously run back home and then get changed, grab his skateboard, and then be walking the streets of where we were walking back, because he didn't even, the route that we took wasn't really near his house. So it was a little suspicious, but he was.
Yeah. Did you ever have any interactions with him? Like any proper interactions?
Yes, I had an interaction, and I remember I had this stripy hat that I would wear after school to walk back, and he said it looked like a tea cozy. Which I don't know if you guys haven't, you know, like prick. And I just remember being so it just ruined my year. I was just scared, like he said my hat looked like a tea cozy.
It sounds like he was into you, though.
I mean,
to me.
Yeah.
I mean,
he was running
like,
back and changing and finding
like
glitter in his hair.
Classic male neg behavior. Like, totally.
I don't know if you guys had anything like this in the UK, but in the US, there was this mail to order catalog for like skater girls called Delia's. And
I would
it
have
was
loved
like
that.
really cute. Yeah. And I remember I would like sit at home with it, and I was only allowed to buy like one thing a year, and I would like choose like what's the thing. But yeah, that
Oh,
totally
yeah,
resonates.
it
Yeah.
gets you.
It's such a classic middle school thing, or that just adolescent thing where it sounds like you only had like a moment, potentially, not even every day, where you would see him, but it was built up to so much.
Totally. It's like
Yeah.
the particular becomes massive every interaction.
Yeah.
And we never, we never got together or anything.
Yeah.
So he will just remain in my deep sort of subconscious past. But that was
So
my
wait a
first
second.
crush, I guess.
You went to a girls' school. Can you just tell us a little bit about that? Because that's specific.
Yeah, I know it's not as popular over here. I guess it tends to be more generally more mixed schools. But yeah, I went to a girls' school all the way from 11 to 18, which there's this idea that I guess academically it's meant to be that you perform better in single sex schools.
Did you like it?
I did like it. Yeah, I did. I think I had a like nice group of friends, and I guess I like learning things. I still do. So I did enjoy. I went to a local state school, which is where you obviously don't pay fees for the first until I was 16, and then I moved to a grammar school, which is where you take an exam to get in, so it's much more academic. And I actually found that much harder those 2 years because I was 16, and I moved to a school where again it was all girls and they all knew each other, and I was new. And 16, 17 is quite an intense time in your life anyway. So then suddenly being a new girl at this new, very kind of quite intense academic school, it was quite a tough couple of years.
The way we support our children's learning has a big impact on their overall well-being. Every child is unique with their own learning style and pace, and some kids may need extra help in one subject, and others aren't being challenged enough in another. No matter where they are, they deserve a personalized approach to their education. That is where IXL Learning comes in. IXL is an online program that covers math, language arts, science, and social studies. It's designed to make learning engaging and fun while also helping kids truly understand and master each topic. And plus, IXL's positive feedback system keeps them motivated and excited to keep learning. I am a huge fan of IXL's approach. It's making a real difference for children across the country. Kids who use IXL consistently see big improvements in their grades, and research shows they also score higher on tests. And here is the best part. IXL offers one subscription that covers everything from pre-K through 12th grade. They're committed to making education simple, effective, and trustworthy for every family. IXL is used in 95 of the top 100 school districts in the U.S. Make an impact on your child's learning. Get IXL now. And Podcrushed listeners can get an exclusive 20% off IXL membership when they sign up today at IXL.com/Podcrushed. Visit IXL.com/Podcrushed to get the most effective learning program out there at the best price.
Hola, crushies. If you don't know what that means, hopefully you know hola by now. But if you don't, I think it's time for some Rosetta Stone. Before I moved to China several years ago, I was desperate to learn a little Mandarin so I could navigate the country. And I was trying different things, and a friend of mine recommended Rosetta Stone, and that was a total game changer for me. It made navigating Beijing so much easier. It made it possible, and I'm really grateful. And so I know that if I were going to recommend to someone a language learning program if they're going to move to another country or they just want to scratch that itch, or you're trying to keep your brain active with learning new things, I would recommend Rosetta Stone. Don't put off learning that language. There's no better time than right now to get started. For a very limited time, Podcrushed listeners can get Rosetta Stone's lifetime membership for 50% off. Visit rosettastone.com/podcrush. That's 50% off unlimited access to 25 language courses for the rest of your life. Redeem your 50% off at rosettastone.com/podcrushed today. Felicity, do you have a memory that stands out as like peak cringy, awkward, embarrassing, like something from that time frame?
Most of my life when I was a teenager. I mean, I feel like you're perpetually like embarrassed and I guess I was quite shy. But I had very bad acne. And so that I remember that being quite a big feature, particularly that age. And yeah, I think that's where the wearing the hats came from.
Yeah.
The Tik
To
Tok.
try and the Tik Tok to try and cover the bad skin.
Yeah. The first movie I ever saw you in was Chalet Girl, and I loved it. I was obsessed with that movie, and you were so adorable and lovable in that movie. And I'm curious, you had to do like, I mean, I assume you had a stunt double, but you were like a skateboarder and a snowboarder. Did you have to learn any of those things for the movie? Was that intimidating? Sort of what was that like having to do stunts?
Yeah, I mean, it was. I definitely had to learn enough to make it look like I could actually do it, which was quite a challenge. I'd skied a little bit when I was younger, and then
And skated.
Yeah,
Very
let us not forget. So yeah, weirdly, often people who are really good at snowboarding have started skating. And actually, in Chalet Girl, she starts off as a champion skater. So as a champion skater, you know that she's got the ability to be able to snowboard.
Yeah.
And then I just went out. I think I had 3 weeks before, and I went to there wasn't a massive budget for the film, and I went to this like tiny ski resort in Bavaria in Germany, and learned to snowboard for 3 weeks.
Wow. That seems unimaginable to me, but
yeah. But it was pretty cool. It was pretty fun film. It's such a sweet film.
It was so sweet.
You know, and there was a good Tamsin Edgerton, who's a good friend of mine, and we just had a laugh and hung out and had some good
Penn's
time.
co-star from Gossip Girl, Ed Westwick.
And Ed Westwick,
right.
of course.
Yeah, you guys have a connection.
Yeah, so we spent a lot of time partying. And then, brought that to the screen.
Yeah.
Did you ever continue snowboarding? Did you ever do it again? No.
No, in recent years, as I've got older, I've gone back to skiing. Just because you fall over so much, and it's too painful. So I feel like with skiing, you're a little more, in control.
Yeah. Felicity, you've played so many incredible characters and so varied. I feel like your resume is vast. And I'm curious if you think back on the characters, and not just characters, but also real women that you've played. Is there one that stands out as the most maybe like transformative?
I think, gosh, I think they all. It's so funny. The time that you're doing it, you become completely obsessed with that person and that character. I think definitely playing Ruth Bader Ginsburg was pretty amazing to meet someone like that, and just felt like she's such a unique character, such a unique person in the world, and she had such she was interesting because she's actually very shy. She really, to have such power and such effect in the world. But in person, she was very quite quiet and quite reserved, and so careful with what she said and how she said it, which I guess was part of her impact. She was so careful with her words. In some ways, she knew the power of words. So that was she was a pretty extraordinary person to play. And then I loved being installed, and I loved playing Jin So, who was, completely different in many ways, and was such I was learning martial arts, and was such a kind of, I just spent loads of time running around. So that was fun, that was fun. That was fun in a different way. We spent hours and hours running along beaches in footage that never made the film.
That sounds exhausting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you tell us a little bit about that, whatever you're allowed to say, because I know there is some secrecy around it and it's deliberate, but about the casting or auditioning, sort of the process of how you got invited to Rogue One?
Well, that very much came off the back of, it's interesting, doing Theory of Everything and that going to the Golden Globes and the Oscars. It's interesting that it gives you a certain amount of, you become quite well known in that moment. And then Rogue One seemed to come out of that period. And I'd often kind of, come across these kind of blockbuster films, and the parts had never really been that good. They were often pretty lame, actually. So to then, for this one to come along with such a great part at the center of the film, it was a pretty, I just wanted to do it. It was, game on. Let's do it. What do I have to do? And then I had a couple of auditions with Gareth Edwards, who directed it, and it went from there.
Should we talk about The Brutalist?
Yeah.
For our listeners who aren't familiar with the film, can you just give us like a brief sort of synopsis?
Yeah, the Brutalist is about two immigrants to America coming from Hungary. Adrian Brody plays Laszlo Toth, who is a brutalist architect, and it's about their struggle for survival from coming out of the war into America.
You had to master a Hungarian accent, and I'm curious how, like, really spending time with the language, with the culture, which it seems like this film was really deliberate to incorporate like actual, lines in Hungarian and really bring that culture in, how it impacted your relationship with the character you were playing and sort of the moment in time that you were bringing to life.
Yeah, with this character, it's strange. I feel as though I couldn't have done it before having my own family. Like, I feel that I needed to be at a place of maturity to take on a role like this, and somehow I think going through that experience of having my own family, and it weirdly gave me the confidence to take on the role. And as you say, there were so many technical aspects to it. There's the accent, the speaking Hungarian. Physically, the character is suffering from malnutrition. But I think the key for me with all of that was to make it all seem as effortless as possible. And to make something effortless, I know that I just have to put in hours and hours and hours and hours of practice. And we have this, in our garden, we have a little, shared office. And I always know how hard a role is by how much time I spend in there. And I was in there a lot. I was I spent a lot of time prepping for this role so that it would, it felt like it was such, it was so ambitious what everyone was trying to achieve that it needed a lot of focus.
The Brutalist is about brutalist architecture in part. And I once heard a TED Talk of a very successful architect talk about the moment that he fell in love with architecture. And it was when he was at university in Toronto. And he remembered looking across the street at, I think it was an art gallery, a concrete building. And he was watching the security guard who was just, pacing on his shift. And he noticed that he was like tracing his fingers along the concrete, and he was an architecture student at the time, and he felt that he could tell in his eyes that the building in some way moved that security guard. And that was the first time he kind of realized that architecture had the capacity to do that. And I was thinking about working on this film. Acting and architecture feel like so far apart in my head as art forms, but
we're going to connect them.
Well, I was wondering,
No, go ahead.
just working on this film, did it change your perspective on architecture at all, or make you think about it in a new way?
Definitely, it changed because I grew up in the Midlands in Birmingham, which I didn't realize, I didn't connect that it had a lot of brutalist architecture. And so there was an amazing theatre there that I spent a lot of time going to. I would go and see plays there, and then there was a library there that has actually been knocked down, but was actually an incredible piece of brutalist architecture. And now having done this film, I was looking back at all these buildings, and I was completely unconscious that they were part of this brutalist movement. So it's been really weird kind of processing my early years through these buildings, which and obviously brutalism it's quite extreme in some ways. But what's so beautiful about it is its honesty. It's so unpretentious.
You mentioned earlier that you have felt just maybe in this recent era of your life, the current era of your life, that you're coming to think of yourself and what you do as art and an artist. I wonder what role this film has played in that, given how profoundly introspective it seems to be. Even watching the trailer, thinking a little bit about like what Sophie mentioned, that architecture, it reflects something about what a society thinks of its people in a sense. And I guess from what I can tell, the protagonist you are playing alongside Adrian Brody, there seems to be a great deal of like suffering and perseverance. Hopefully, I think as actors, every role brings some new sort of reflection, personal reflection. I'm curious, what this role has done for you, what she gave to you, if anything.
I think that's so true. I mean, they are two people who are incredibly ideological. And talking about artists, the characters Adrian and I play are two artists, and they are, they want to survive, and they want to succeed, but they want to succeed on their terms, which comes with complications as you see in the film. But I think this film definitely feels like the kind of work that I want to keep doing, really. I think when you have young children and your time becomes so precious, and so if you're fortunate enough, you want to spend that time wisely. And so it was interesting with this film. It was just such a no-brainer. No matter what they'd have asked, if I had to go anywhere, I would have done it, because it felt like it was a story that was worth telling.
You have been part of so many artful and impactful projects, it seems to me, and I'm curious if there are any types of roles or types of characters that you haven't played yet that you have your eye on.
Well, it's been really nice. I just did an ensemble Christmas comedy over the summer.
Fun.
Just, it's a little antidote to the Brutalist. And it was Michelle Pfeiffer plays that. It's 3 children, and Michelle Pfeiffer plays our mother, and I'm the eldest daughter. And it's Sweet. Home Alone, but we leave our mum at home by accident. So it was really. So I do like to change it up and mix it up and find something new. And that was actually that was tough in a different way from the Brutalist. Doing comedy and getting that to work is sometimes as hard as tragedy.
Right.
I did want to double back to the Brutalist. I had one maybe unconventional question for you, but just, the movie I think deals with obviously religious persecution and this family that's affected kind of in the wake of everything that's happened. And I was thinking about how we continue to tell stories of this period of time that was like so brutal and harsh. And you were also talking about kind of this like artistic sensibility. You've always been an artist, but having an awareness of it. And I don't know why, but I'm just curious if this film stirred any kind of like spiritual awakening or sort of how you're grappling with like spirituality at this time in your life as well.
Well, I mean, without sounding too heavy, you know, as you get older, you get a little, but you never quite know, but you do get a little closer to the grave. So
Closer to death. Oh yeah, let's go there, please.
Every
This
day,
is
yeah.
the vein of our show.
yeah.
Actually, this is what we do the best.
Oh, I love talking about death. That's
We
one of
really
my
love
favorite
talking about
topics.
death. We really do.
Another hour just opened up.
I know. Let's not get started. Or let's. Yeah, I mean, it's all. What's interesting, I was just talking about to someone about the pandemic, and you know, and in a way, that collective experience for everyone, a sense of death that's so much more present, and I think has had a like fundamental shift on how people navigate things and life. But I think I don't know. I think, I mean, it sounds pretty boring, but for me, it is trying to have a bit of, it sounds such a cliche as well. It is a work-life balance. I mean, that's what I hope for, you know, that's ideal, is spending time, you know, it's spending time with your family and is so important. And also, you know, being creative and how do you navigate that?
This weekend I was at my dad's, and I do spend a lot of time with him. But we were watching a lot. But we were watching like a stand-up, like Fortune Feimster. I think she has a stand-up special. Anyway, we were watching the stand-up special. He was in a chair. I was like on the couch, and we have these two little dogs that we share, and the dogs were like draped all over me. And I just had this moment where I was like, oh, I feel like this is a sacred moment. And I just like closed my eyes and I like held on to it. And yeah, it was like that moment in family and home. It just felt really sacred.
Oh yeah, it's so funny you say the moment. That's what you realize. That's all it is. Life is a series of moments, and some are better than others. But it's so funny you say that. I've had a similar experience of actually registering the moment and going, oh wow, but presumably because we're becoming more aware of death.
Sure.
Oh, I
and
just
my
want
father's death.
Yeah, and we just want to record that somehow because that's what it's going to be in the end, a collection of moments.
I have a friend who's a filmmaker, Kyle McCarthy, and he has done this project the last 2 years where when he has a moment like that and he thinks to himself like, oh, I don't want this moment to end, he decided to start recording, like take out his phone and record just that moment and that line, I don't want this moment to end. And then it's just a collection over the year of those things. And I noticed, I was watching his from this year and I noticed it's pretty much every single one of them. Like it starts on his face and then he pans to whatever he's doing. And it's his wife and his kids. And I thought that was cute.
I was going to say sunset. Maybe. I was like just thinking it's a lot of sunsets.
And he's in a cemetery just looking at
Yeah, it's never when he's like sitting in the office.
Looking
at his computer screen.
Exactly.
No, it's not that moment.
Of course, we now live in an age where every time you think that, you're like, let me get up my phone.
It's a piece of art.
Hey, family, making sure we got this.
Don't be a downer.
Yeah, exactly. You thought you had me totally present, but no, I have my phone.
The cloud's gonna love this one. Anyway. Can you share a little bit about Brady Corbett? I actually, grew up with him.
Oh,
we were like, teen years together, like early teens.
And was that here in New York?
That would have been in LA.
Right.
Yeah, that would have been in LA. So yeah, I'm in New York.
Oh,
as
in
well,
LA.
I grew up partly in LA. And I mean the turn he's had as a director with his he's got such a specific vision, clearly. And to me, I mean, because we're the same age, he's quite young, I think, to have a film of this nature to come out from him. I'm just kind of curious what, if there's anything you're willing to share. What was I don't know, what was the vibe like on set, or what was that experience you guys all had?
Well, actually, I met Brady when I must have been maybe I was my late 20s, and we met just out like in a bar with some other friends, and I remember thinking it was so interesting then because he only ever worked with these amazing auteurs. Like on
Yeah.
his
I don't
acting
know.
TV was
Yeah.
literally just like Haneke. You know, you could see even at that, you know, from the very beginning, he seemed to have this curation,
Yeah,
that
it's true.
that he just obviously had such a strong sense, I think, of what he wanted to do. And he's, you know, he's an intelligent, he's just so intelligent. It's quite interesting, both you feel emotionally and academically in some ways, you know, and that's quite a special combination. But he and Mona, his wife, they wrote the script together. So it's a very, you know, actors always say this, like, it was like a family. And you think, was it? But it was quite familial. You know, no one was there because they were making lots of money. It was there because everyone was wanting to tell that story. So it was, he just is, he's vulnerable himself, and he's a good leader. You know where you're going, but he lets everyone be part of that process.
Felicity, do you have your eye on directing at all?
No.
It's not a no. Oh no. Okay. All right. It seemed like the pause was long enough. It was like,
I know, but do you know what? I would have. I maybe, you know, back in the day when I was a bit younger, I would have thought, yes, I want to direct one day. And then now I'm just like, it's so hard just trying to focus on one thing and do that well, that I'm pretty just focused on acting and family.
That makes sense.
Nice.
Yeah.
But maybe my fantasy life, I would be a brilliant director as well.
Direct your kids' plays.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
yeah, or maybe once the kids are in college, so you can have like a second life then.
Yeah, they can start again.
So we do have a classic last question, which you might be aware of. If you could go back to 12-year-old Felicity, what would you say or do?
12-year-old Felicity, I would say it's all gonna be okay. Is that what everyone says?
No.
Actually, yes, it is.
Most
It's,
people.
no.
We got people that are like, don't pluck your eyebrows so thin. You know, we've had a range of answers.
I know.
It's the essence of what everybody says, and so you just shouldn't feel at all. It's like it's so true.
Yeah.
And it's a beautiful thing to say.
Yeah, exactly. I think there's just so much when you're that age. There's so much kind of ahead of you that, I don't know, you can be worried, I guess, and you're kind of worried about what everyone's thinking and all of that stuff. And I guess you'd go back and say, no, who cares what people think?
Yeah.
Something for now as well.
Well, Felicity, you are a delight. Thank you so much for
Yeah,
spending
thank you
time
for being a
with
part
us.
of this.
Yeah, thanks. I was really nervous actually, but you guys, it was really cool. You bring out interesting things in people.
Aw,
It's really nice to meet
That's
you.
very kind.
Thank you.
All right.
Have a good day.
You can see The Brutalist in theaters, or you can catch one of Felicity's many other projects on streaming.
We are so excited that you can now listen to Podcrushed ad-free on Amazon Music. In fact, you can listen to any episode of Podcrushed ad-free right now on Amazon Music with an Amazon Prime membership.